What's up, everybody? It's Make It Make Sense. It was extremely messy in the courtroom. Like the video's intro plays, we got a lot to get into.
I was listening to Make It Make Sense. Shout out to Make It Make Sense.
It makes sense.
Make it make sense to me intellectually.
It made sense.
Make it make sense. You know what I'm saying?
Big moves. Surfer. Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you see. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dream. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you see. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dream. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense.
You got pretty legs, man.
Oh man,
And they lanolated.
Man, listen,
I mean,
I'm back working out.
You put shea butter, jerky.
Oh, you see that?
Okay, I did a podcast with Jerika Duncan from CBS. So I'm going to share the link with you guys. I'm also going to put it on my Instagram. Definitely check it out. I think Jerika is dope. Let me see. Okay, so I copied the link. I don't know if I can. Hold on one second, because I want you guys to definitely check it out and support. There's a lot of moving parts over here, y'all. There's a lot of moving parts. Okay. Okay, I found it. I don't know. I guess you can use it from here. Okay, so I'm going to share this link. Definitely check it out. I thought it was a dope interview. And like I said, I like her. Link to interview with CBS reporter. So y'all, even when you don't see me on here on my own channel, I have been working like non-stop. It's been a lot. Okay, so I shared the link to that. It's pinned. Definitely check it out after this video. We have a lot to discuss because it got super messy in the court. For starters, let me tell you how my day started. I take my Lyft, I get to the courthouse, and I leave my phone in the Lyft. I walk out, I pay my line sitter. Luckily, I had cash, and I start to notice that the line is looking a little janky. Like there's a lot of people up front. I know for a fact that I paid a line sitter who was there from 5 p.m. the day before. So that put me at 4th, which meant that at 3 o'clock when court closed, line sitters started. I don't really care. Get it how you live. I don't care about who's on the list, who's not on the list. The days that I told you guys I'm going to be in the courtroom, no matter what I need to like pay to make that happen or however early I need to get up, I'm going to be there. So I get in line. Arguments start to break out. There's some woman. Let me just set the scene for you super, super quick. It's a mixed bag. You have reporters who did not make the list in line with me. You have you can't say homeless in New York. You have to say unhoused. You have unhoused individuals in New York who are either trying to get somebody to buy their spot in line, or they have decided they're interested in the case. And as any public person, whether you have a home or not, of course you can go to the case. So you have those people. Then you have people who are just interested in the energy. Then you have Diddy supporters who are there. Then you have the MTA lady and a couple other people who are just as crazy as her, but with podcasts or TikToks or YouTubes, you have content creators, it's a lot of energy. I don't give a damn about any of that. I don't even give a damn about, yeah, I don't give a damn about any of that. Get it how you live. Just leave me alone. So for some reason, some of the unhoused people took issue with me. And as always, I kind of just pay it dust. But one in particular was real nasty. He was like talking about like the way I was dressed, how I think that I can just hire a line sitter. Mind you, he's standing behind reporters who also had line sitters. I don't know what it is about me, but people are just not pleased. They are literally pushing. There's a lady behind me with a cane. So I'm like, you only got a couple times to push me. So I get out of line. The bailiffs and these people like know me. They don't really care. And I'm just like, chill out. Like, you have a cane. I'm not trying to, push nobody back with the cane, but they are now jumbling. Like, this line is now extremely compressed. I get inside. There are more people trying to physically fight each other. The lady with the cane has now jumped the entire line. Somebody had come all the way from Atlanta from the court case. So I felt like she was probably about to beat her ass. And that's why she hightailed it with her cane to the front of the line. But the problem is, I don't care what you do as long as I'm still number 4. So it just got real nasty. Bottom line, I was in the courtroom. The woman with the cane was not. She was in the overflow room with the woman from Atlanta who wanted to beat her ass. So I don't give a damn about any of that. I don't. But I'm just letting you. I'm setting the scene for you. I paid money in order to be 4 in line. That's it. I paid money to be number 4 in line because you guys wanted me in the courtroom. So that's what I did. Everybody who wants to fight, live your life. Just leave me the hell out of it. I don't care what you do. I don't care who you skip. It's not my business. I'm number 4. That's what I paid for. I got my phone back, so I was extremely happy. But all the other stuff, I don't really care. We'll get into it. Okay. It was a lot. It was a lot of stuff happening. Somebody was sick. I was like, you need to go home. Okay. Let's get started. Because the prosecution actually did good, you guys. The prosecution actually did good. Let me see. Okay, so Miss Slavic. She says, now this is her closing statement. She says, over the last several weeks, you have learned about Sean Combs. He doesn't take no for an answer. We're going to explain how he was involved with arson, bribery, sexual assault, sex trafficking, forced, threatened, and manipulated people, Cassie and Jane, power dynamics, violence, and fear, and doesn't take no for an answer. She kept saying, doesn't take no for an answer. She said there were 2 specific moments. 320 of 16. It was with Cassie, the escort. Cassie tried to flee, and then they show a photo of Diddy dragging Cassie. 2024, kicked, choked, slapped Jane, forced her into a freak off. Oh, yeah, I got in court, and we're going to talk about everything. Y'all know my favorite is always going to be Lil Kim Janice. Lil Kim Janice did not disappoint. She was looking good today, y'all. She had on her short Lil Kim wig. She had on a nice outfit. She has on these really dope sunglasses. Y'all know she's my favorite. Of the kids, all of the kids were there. If you watch my earlier video, I told you all of the girls were there. They were engaged in what was being said. You had Quincy. I'm no longer calling Justin. We now have, I think there's a new case involving him, a new allegation. So he might get a name like the slow one. He's real short. We ended up like together multiple times in line. He's like super short. So we can either call him like Treasure Troll, Garden Gnome. What was Diddy? What's his daddy's name? You know, the bodyguard. What's his daddy's name? We can call him Wolf Jr. He don't look like a wolf though. It's more like a fox, something small, petite. Wolf Jr. We might just do Wolf Jr. Treasure Troll is a good one. A Hobbit. I don't know. We'll figure it out before then. But he's real small. Misa was there, and she had on a scarf. But when I saw her, she was swollen. So I'm assuming maybe she has some work done. Not Gargamel. She was there. Sarah was there. Now, let me break down Sarah for you guys. Sarah reminds me of, or do I have it written down? I think we'll get to Sarah because y'all know I have this thing where I notice everything. So let's continue on. He said she said ran a criminal enterprise through violence, coercion, used silence and shame, and felt he was above the law. No one could stop him. He used his inner circle and his money to cover his crimes. Guilty of each of the 5 counts of the crimes he's charged with. Evidence fits together and said this is why he's guilty. Racketeering and conspiracy. He had an inner circle. He distributed drugs, engaged in prostitution, sex trafficking, bribery. She said he sex trafficked Cassie. There was interstate travel. I put side note, Pearl has wrote down one thing. Whereas security, the guards are tired of all of this, and I don't really blame them. The guards are over this. The bailiffs are over all of this. But I don't want to say that because I like that bailiff, so nothing. Racketeering and conspiracy. Through an enterprise, the leader becomes more powerful and dangerous. A group of people who come together for a common purpose. They said this is Mr. Combs' kingdom. Everyone there is there to serve him. And that was a direct quote that I remember. They said the goal is to protect the defendant's power, reputation at all costs. Number 1, conspiracy to participate. 2, affected interstate commerce. 3, willfully became a member. And 4, willing to commit 2 racketeering acts. She wanted to clarify when they say Combs Enterprise, she's not talking about Combs Enterprise, the company, which the defense talked about. She's saying specifically Combs is an enterprise. I put they're a band of evil skanks. KK, they said, is evil, was referred to as Diddy's right brain, lived in his home, responded to messages on his phone. And I said control of the mindless slaves. She didn't say that, but that's the way it was coming across. Like it was the employees, like D-Rock, the security team, but she did not include she didn't include Roger Bonds at this point. But she said they were always ready to F some shit up. I paraphrased, but that's really what she was getting to. So she notated Mel's Diner with Suge Knight and David James, the former assistant, the one that we liked. He knew it was not a regular job when they tried to run up on Suge, and the guns were in the car, and he was supposed to be the getaway driver. So they show an exhibit of the seized guns, and then she drops Fahim's name. Then she shows a photo. Oh, sorry. She goes over some of the names of the people who weren't witnesses. Okay, so as we're going through this, because I'm in the courtroom, I'm not only taking notes, but I'm also looking at all of these elements, the jury. Because I'm in the courtroom, I can't fully see Diddy's face like I could in the overflow room, but I'm going to give you guys a lot of context for the jury. So I'm calling these jury checks. So I said, there is a juror already sleeping. They moved on. They said KK made $600,000 yearly. Then I said, so I have different names for these people. Just because I have a name for them does not mean that they look like them per se. It's just a way to describe them. So there is a juror. I say she's the fashionista because she usually comes a little bit more done up. She is dozing off. There's a juror I call Mr. Bean. He's just a little bit like, he's always smiling and is always looking and trying to make eye contact with people. A little da-da-da-da-da kind of guy. So, Mr. Bean is what I call him. And now we have a new player. I call him lacrosse team. So when you hear me say lacrosse, he just looks like he used to play lacrosse in high school. Take that for whatever you may. This dude was sleeping throughout. You'll get more names as we keep going. It's not just Pearl. So element 2, she says, Combs Enterprise affected interstate commerce. Girlfriends and male sex workers they booked travel for them. They distributed and provided them with drugs and had them carry drugs across state lines. Element 3. The crimes they agreed to with each other. Defendant agreed to crimes and distributed drugs. Let's see. There's arson, bribery, travel for sex workers, sorry. Covering up crimes, witness tampering, and forced labor. It says to convict on count 1, you only need to find that he agreed that one person included in the conspiracy would commit 2 crimes. And when she said that, like little lightning bolts went off in my head. Oh, she's countering what the defense was saying, because the defense definitely alluded to the fact that this could not be a RICO because not enough people were involved and the drugs were such small amounts. It was personal use. They were really pushing personal use. This was big and people were actually listening to this. So it says to convict on 1 count, you only need to find that he agreed that one person included in the conspiracy would commit 2 crimes. Y'all remember that? So count 1. Fed Cassie drugs, distributed drugs. The participants were D-Rock, KK, and Fahim. She said also all assistants help keep the drug supply high. And as she's saying these things, I've given the prosecution a hard time sometimes because I'm like, it's not as engaging with the jury as the defense, but the way that this was laid out was done very thoroughly. And just because some of the people were sleeping, which I don't necessarily blame you if this is not your thing, if you're not interested in like how the outcome of this case or true crime, this may not be your thing, but they did good. They did really well, guys. All assistants help keep the drug supply high. They distributed it knowingly. Emphasis on hard drugs, coke, meth, ketamine, oxy, Xanax, MDMA, GHB, mushrooms, and Tucci. Okay, side note. So now all the kids are in the room. I said with the F. Moving back. Quantity of drugs is not an element of the crime. The amount of drugs is not an element of the crime. KK is a co-conspirator. Tanya, KK is a co-conspirator. But yes, that is a big point. The quantity of drugs is not an element of the crime. Distribution does not just mean kilos. It means that that you gave drugs to someone else. And I'm like, if that's the case, and the judge explains that that is the law to the jurors, the prosecution has a chance. the prosecution actually has a chance. After the assistants got them, they gave them to Cassie and Jane. For example, Diddy and KK having Jane pick up drugs. KK reassured her she did it all the time. Those are the things that they have in black and white through text messages. You remember Jane went to the house, the drugs are ready. The amount of drugs, you guys can put in the chat. I did not know. I mean, when you think Rico, it's easy to assume that you're talking like you're moving a lot of weight. If that's not the case and that's not the way the law is written, the prosecution has a chance. Y'all, I put KK is somewhere right now looking at Inner City Press with bubble guts. That's how effective this was. Emphasis, very important to explain to the jury the amount does not matter. She starts highlighting Fahim and Guido. Brendan requesting a reimbursement from Fahim for drugs is included. And that KK cleared the amounts. I'm telling you, like they are tying this together. Like they're doing a pretty good job. But I mean, I'm fair, but y'all know how I feel about Diddy.
Supposed to feel sorry for that bitch. I don't. Supposed to feel sorry for that bitch. I don't. Supposed to feel sorry for that bitch. I don't.
Okay. Okay, so now there's a dude, we're just gonna call him Mr. Clean. Mr. Clean is now dozing off. He's fighting it, but he's like dozing off. Again, they ran down the list of drugs he gave to Jane and Cassie. Then they included drugs that he gave to Carrie Morgan, Bonna, Mia, and Brendan Paul. Now, I would say this kid is maybe 10 to 12. They have a 10 to 12-year-old kid sitting in the courtroom listening to this kind of content. They have, y'all really like think about this. We're talking about distributing drugs. We're talking sexual assault, sexual violence, things that I wouldn't even want you to let your kid hear me say on this channel. But you are so hard up for sympathy or empathy from the jurors that you would have all of your very young adult children in the courtroom along with a 10 to 12-year-old kid. That was crazy to me. Luckily, the kid was like dozing off, but he was awake. I didn't like that at all. I don't know whose kid that was, but I didn't like that at all. Let's see. I put, thank God the kid keeps dozing off. So in the kidnapping, they said they highlighted Cassie, and the players were Bonds, Diddy, and the assistants who brought her clothing and food after he had beat her and told her to get out. She said they took and held or detained a victim by using force. It doesn't matter how far they moved you, they moved you. So in this situation, I think this was the time where Cassie had gotten beat up, and then D-Rock says, I think Justin had seen her, and so they were like, you got to move her out. The fact that they moved her and put her in a location, incident where he beat Cassie in the car and stumped in her face. So he was in the car beating her. Then when she fell to the ground of the SUV, he started stumping on her face. She was disfigured in her face. And so he moved her to the London hotel so that the kids would not see her. This is where it becomes kidnapping. Cassie wanted to go home to her mom, but Bonds wouldn't let her because of clear instruction from Diddy. So you think girlfriend, you think kidnapping has to be, I'm taking you from, Louisiana to Florida. No, the way that the law is written, it can be a trivial amount, but you're moving somebody and forcing them to go against their will. if the judge comes back and says this is the legality of this, then the prosecution has a chance here. David James, the assistant that we liked, his search history was checked to make sure he hadn't talked about the beating to a blog. She emphasized taking someone's phone is criminal. We're thinking all of these small things, and I'm guilty of it sometimes too. But when you see or when you hear it in black and white, and you think of the legality, you think somebody taking your phone isn't a big deal. Your boss taking your phone and going through it without your permission is criminal, you guys. Somebody say, can I what? Okay, so 420 King, we're going based on the merits. Like, maybe you're not accustomed to this channel, but even though I don't like Diddy because he beats on women, if the defense has a point, I'm going to let you guys know this was valid, this was effective. In this situation, I'm going based on the merits. If somebody was held against their will and moved to another location, it's considered kidnapping, and they're doing that. I mean, it's based on actual California law where this occurred. So that's what we do here. It's not, we can't just say, oh, it didn't happen or whatever. We're going based on the actual laws. If the judge comes back and explains to the jury that that's not the law, I'm going to tell you guys that as well. But for the time being, we're going based on what is there. And that's what they said. Capricorn, they said under New York law, when a person's movements are restricted by confinement and without consent. Capricorn was kept in a room for multiple days. She had to receive 5 different lie detector tests. Also, let me see. When they went to Capricorn's house during the Kid Cudi situation and told her she had to leave with them, that's considered kidnapping. Let me see. Sorry. The elements are: it was intentional, it was unlawful, and you restrained the victim. Capricorn forced to stay in the room and take 5 different lie detector tests over the course of a few days. And then David James confirmed the Capricorn Clark story of being held against her will and having to take the lie detector test. In the Kid Cudi incidents, they banged on her door with a weapon, told her to get dressed. We are going to kill Cudi, and I don't give a F about what you want to do. Emphasized again, would not take no for an answer. Made Capricorn take him to Cassie. Then he attacked Cassie full force. Capricorn left while Diddy continued to beat the shit out of her in the middle of the street. She then reached out to D-Rock and Bonds to advise that they go help Cassie. So also at the time of the Kid Cudi incident, they highlighted the fact that the officer recognized Diddy's or ran the place for Diddy's car to confirm that Diddy was passing by. So remember, the defense had argued that they did not know for a fact that that was Diddy or not. Guys, we have over 4,000 in the chat. Definitely hit the like button. For the people who are here for the defense, that's fine. Everybody can stay. Just know that the people who are for the prosecution will be mad tomorrow when we go over the defense. And then Monday, they'll be mad when the prosecution has a chance to respond to what the defense said. So every day somebody's mad. It's okay on this channel. Let me see. Okay, jury check. I put 3 jurors are now dozed off. lacrosse team, fashionista, and this one woman who I call Detroit, not for any other reason than she looks like somebody I know from Detroit. They're now sleeping. And I said, Pearl's eyes are low, but she's not asleep. Arson, the Kid Cudi case. There was an email from Cassie indicating what Diddy had done to Kid Cudi in real time. In that email is also where she said he threatened to release two sex tapes of hers and said someone will hurt Kid Cudi. Jury check. In the front row, all of them are alert, and 3 of them are even taking notes. So the front row of jurors is doing what they're supposed to do. I don't know what's going on with the back 2 rows. I put Mr. Bean on the top row is awake. I'm sorry, strange juror. There's one juror who is doing this the whole time. He won't face the any of the attorneys or Diddy or even the attorney that's talking to him. So now we're getting into bribery. The Intercontinental Hotel attack. The hotel staff is the hotel staff is who we're talking about, and the players in this. That's how she highlighted the different situations. So hotel staff over here, the players: D-Rock, Diddy, and KK. So it says Diddy brought the players in immediately to handle it. They called and harassed until the security finally agreed to sell the footage. But prior to that, he handed Flores, the officer, a stack of money and said, "Don't tell anybody." So we're talking specifically about bribery, not how you feel about Diddy, not how you feel about KK, not how you feel about any of these people. Specifically, he handed Officer Flores a stack of money and said, "Don't tell anybody." Jury check. Now the man sitting next to Pearl is having heavy eyes. He's fighting it hard. Okay, so they show an exhibit from March 5th, 2016. It's all the calls and texts to Cassie. All the calls and texts between Cassie and Diddy. This is where Diddy is lying, saying he's about to get arrested. So the prosecutor is saying he knew he could be arrested for the assault caught on camera. So remember, what we're discussing is bribery. Okay, so she says KK and D-Rock covered their boss's tracks. Eli, an assistant, informed KK that they were not playing nice at the hotel. So KK reaches out to the hotel herself. Then she shows up to the hotel in person. They refused to show KK the video, but told her off the record it's really bad. Diddy then called. KK gets the phone number. Diddy calls the hotel, and they still refuse. So KK gets the personal cell phone number, and she and Diddy begin to harass and call this man. They said, "We will take care of you." Finally, the man says his boss wants $50,000. So then they begin calling the boss, and they call Eddie. Diddy starts referring to Eddie as Eddie my angel, and then she shows in his phone where he saved the band's number as Eddie my angel. So the way she's explaining this is, you know that you've done something that is criminal, so you are trying to cover it up, i.e. handing the man a stack of money, saying don't tell anybody. Now going through your intermediaries, D-Rock and KK, to acquire this band's number so that you can consistently offer him and his boss money to cover up a crime that you could have been charged with. That's what I'm saying, guys. It was so methodical the way that they laid this out. And some of the stuff during the actual, prosecution, sometimes I would be sleepy, but the way that I thought that they were very smart in the way that they laid this out. It made sense. They show all types of calls from Diddy to the manager. Finally, they come over. KK takes the people's license, gets them to sign NDAs, and then they count out each dollar of the bribe. While D-Rock told Eddie, the man who's coming for the bribe, "You are doing the right thing." Eddie says he knows if there's a police report, he'll be in trouble. So Diddy makes Cassie call Eddie and say she is not going to file a police report. I don't care if you like the man, hate the man. When you lay it out like this, it seems pretty clear that you're covering up a crime. This is not just a matter of domestic violence. You identified the crime that you could be charged with, and you're doing everything, including paying, in order to make sure that these people do not go to law enforcement. Let's see. Hold on. It's getting. Can't even see. Okay, that's better. If Eddie broke the NDA, he would have had to pay $1 million. So that's what the NDA said. If I was Eddie, I would have took your $1 million and then sold it for $3 million. You know, somebody would have paid $3 million to have a tape of Diddy beating Cassie for distribution. A lot of people would have paid a lot of money for that. I said, just realize that everyone from the family is here except for the slow one and Dana. So back to bribery. If you gave or offered a bribe to a witness, they said that would be Eddie. The person acted with the corrupt intent to persuade the witness to agree that the bribe would unlawfully influence the testimony. I definitely missed the overflow room because this is a lot more work. The defense said it wasn't a bribe and it was just about bad publicity. She goes, "That's not true." I thought that was really good. Let me read it again. The person acted with the corrupt intent to persuade the witness to agree that the bribe would unlawfully influence the testimony. Sex trafficking, Cassie and Jane. Counts 2 and 4, the elements: knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, or I can't read my writing for the last word, the victim. Use of force, fraud, or coercion, causing the victim to engage in a sex act. Only requires that he used coercion. She said this is not an attempt to criminalize toxic relationships. So then they show a chart, and there's 15 different male sex workers who was with Cassie. 6 of those were with both Jane and Cassie, and 6 were with Jane alone. So she says both Cassie and Jane said they were open to trying and were willing to do some of the freak nasty shit, that's me paraphrasing, that Diddy wanted them to do. But she says you only need to find that for sex trafficking one time. You only need to find that it happened one time. It doesn't matter if it was the course of the relationship. It doesn't matter how long you were together. If one time you did it, you are guilty of that. So, and she says he did it through lies, threats, and violence. Example 1, Jane: fraud, coercion, and force. She said there was a pattern. You had an outfit, lube, drugs, lighting, big black dick, recording devices, escorts. September 20th, 2023. In New York. October of 23 at the sobriety party. June of 24 when he beat her and then forced her to have a freak off. She goes, the stages were love bombing, grooming. Under grooming, you have drugs, the outfits, happy time, realizing he was a cuck. And then the last element is using her rent as leverage. May of 2021, she was having fantasy talk. And he told her about fantasy talk, so she started engaging in it. But it was only when she was high, and then he would arrange for sex. Then the worker would show up, and it would be a normal freak off. She said she was excited about the first experience because she thought it was taboo. Once he was paying the bills, though, it was a wrap. It was all Wild King nights and hotel nights. Okay, so I told you guys we were gonna be. I don't want to call this messy, but again, I'm noticing everything. So now we're gonna talk about his baby mama, Sarah. Sarah is, I would say, maybe in her 50s. She's still a very attractive woman, but there's something like very regal about Sarah. I put Sarah, something very regal. If she wasn't in the roughneck circles, she would have ended up with a Steve Harvey and not a Diddy or a Tupac. I'm sure she's thinking, how did I get here? Sarah, there's something like, you see Sarah and you just think rich woman, and it doesn't have anything to do with the Cartier on her wrist or anything like that. I'm sure she was dressed in some nice designer. There's something about her aura that just says she is some rich man's wife. How she got with Diddy and Tupac, she was in the wrong circle. She should have been a Marjorie Harvey. She should have been a drug lord, like allegedly Marjorie Harvey, and got with a Steve Harvey. So they're having all of these discussions about Diddy not allowing Jane to use condoms. And now I'm looking at the row in front of Sarah, which has all of the kids, the young person, and Lala, the woman who has been raising the twins. I put Lala is looking around because her concern is the kids. It looks like she's the only person who cares what these kids are absorbing. I put emphasis on your daddy might be a freako, but you don't have to go down the path like the slow one did. Jury check. Fashionista is still dozing off. There's one person who I feel like he looks like maybe he used to like a retired cop or something. He's rubbing his eyes and yawning, but I said he's still holding on. Lacrosse team, DGAF. Lacrosse team don't care. Lacrosse team is like this. At some points he was doing the church sleep, the church doze off and catching himself, but he's not taking notes. His mind is probably made up. I think the closest thing Lacrosse ever got to sex work is maybe a late night he saw one of them old Showtime shows. He doesn't give me that this is his life. Now, Detroit is doing something strange. I don't know if this is how she stays awake. I don't know if she's fighting sleep and doesn't, because all eyes are on them. I don't know what's going on with Detroit, but she's making funny faces now. Then we hear Diddy voice note. It says, I'm not going back and forth with you, baby girl. We can have a spat, but after, who uses the term spat? Diddy. We can go back, we can have a spat, but after that, you need to get on your job. I'm about to really disappear on you. So she takes this voice note and she breaks it down to the most base level. She's like, meaning either we're going to do hotel nights or no rent. And the fact that Diddy actually used the verbiage, you need to get on your job, when Jane is saying she does not want to have freak offs. That's not looking great. I've been very honest with you guys. I feel like Jane is not the strongest, but when you put it in this context, you need to get on your job. I'm about to disappear on you. This was effective. Jane responds, I'm disgusted with myself. What I've been doing is dark and sleazy, and I am disgusted with myself. I don't want to feel obligated to keep doing these nights to keep the roof over my head. Yeah, Sarah is Chance's mom. So then Diddy calls her and then threatens to stop paying her rent directly. Knew Jane was dependent on the rent for her and her kid. Now, look, we can have that debate about whether Jane could have left, or maybe she was not in the same boat per se as Cassie. I get it. But in the context of these closing statements, they're making Jane look like it just is more effective. Jane's testimony, I was back and forth with it. Sometimes when she was losing control, although it was not supposed to be funny, it would be funny at times. This is better. This was much better. That doesn't mean that the defense is not going to poke holes in this tomorrow. It just means that for what it's worth, Miss Slavic did a good job. So, okay, so now we move on to the recorded calls between Jane and Diddy. And remember, guys, Jane wasn't even recording the calls. KK was recording the calls to try to get Jane to slip up. Diddy says to her, "Are you recording me? What are you even talking about?" She says, Miss Slavic says, this is how he gaslights her and records her via KK. Not many applesauce go. She goes, the doctor explained trauma bonding. Sean would always call her crazy when she made sense. Diddy says, charge me to buy her silence. One, he sexually exploited her. She lost opportunities. So Diddy calls and says, charge me, meaning I don't want you to talk. Charge me what you want. So she says she wants $100,000 per year and 15 months of rent. Now, I thought that she wanted more. I'm sure if that's the case, the defense will tell us. But for the time being, that's what the prosecution said. She only wanted $100,000 per year and 15 months of rent, or the 15 months left on her lease paid out. Still kind of cheap. She says Diddy then went ballistic, called her and said he would release hundreds of videos to her ex. So then she reached out to KK for help, and KK said he won't actually do it. They keep rapping in KK. June 24th, he beat her and he forced her to take drugs and then have sex with escorts. So element one, recruited and enticed her into hotel nights. Two, communications. He would call and FaceTime. He had her call and FaceTime escorts and brought drugs to the intercontinental. Brought drugs, interstate commerce. She pointed out, we only need to find that one hotel night meets the elements. June 18th, 2024. 3 months after the Diddy raid, they stopped doing hotel nights at hotels and they started doing them in Jane's house. They were having drinks. Then there was an argument over Young Miami. Then Jane puts her hands on Diddy. She told him she hated him and she wanted him to get out. Then, not Young Miami. It was the younger girl. I think maybe he had taken out somebody who was like 21, something like that. He then proceeds to knock down 3 different doors to get to her and starts beating her mercilessly. Jury check. At this point, Fashionista on the back row and lacrosse team are knocked out. Pearl is still hanging in there. Man to the left of Pearl is doing the church sleep. He's dozing off. Detroit is also dozing off. It's so much harder when you're there with the jury, like to take the notes and then also tell you guys how the jury is like interacting. I keep saying I feel bad for Pearl. I want to go grab a drink with Pearl. I said, I'm going to go get an old English with Pearl. And I said, scratch that. Pearl probably drinks Alizé or Boone Farms. Either way, I want to buy Pearl a drink because she's sleepy and she is disgusted with all of these hoish activities. Now I said, Diddy's daughters are all intently listening as the prosecution. So the reason I pointed that out is because they're looking very engaged, but the context at this point, the prosecution is talking about how Diddy had told Jane, "You are gonna suck this dick tonight. You are gonna suck some dick tonight." Then Jane says, "I don't want to." Then he puts his face in Jane's face and says, "Is this coercion?" I put, this is a great point, but I can't tell if it was significant to the jury. So then Jane performs oral on the defendant until Antoine produces some baby butter. The prosecutor says it doesn't matter if Jane started the fight. All that matters is the reason she had sex with the escort. I thought that was a good point. I feel like that was a good point. I repeat it. It doesn't matter if Jane put her hands on Diddy. All that matters is the reason that she was forced to have sex with the escort that night. She said she didn't want to. He said, "You're going to suck some D tonight." And Antoine had to finish before she was allowed to stop. There's a pattern of Diddy coercion. Drugs you have to take to engage in the hotel nights, sex tape. So we're talking about one of the specific tapes where they watched a large part of it because the defense had said she was into it. But then the prosecution went back and said, this was the exact tape that Jane told you she had taken liquid. What did she take? She took liquid, what was it, liquid Molly? Yeah, liquid Molly. And it was her most heightened sexual experience. So I thought that was a good way to counteract that. Oh yeah, definitely hit the like button, guys. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We're trying to get to at least 225 by the end of the trial. So I know there's a lot of new people in here. Definitely hit that like button and subscribe. There is a library of videos of Jane's hotel nights. And allegedly Diddy told her he would release them, and that is an example of coercion. So at this point, I put, what about Cassie? And then she says, Cassie. Let me see. Let me see. There's abuse. Let me see. Elements of sex trafficking involving Cassie. Pursued her after signing her, gave her X for the first time. They had sex for the first time on a trip that they took to Miami when he was supposed to be her employer. After that first time, now they're in a relationship. 21-year-old Cassie, he introduced her to drugs. She was naive. There were power dynamics at play. Then they have a quote from Diddy that says, I got her right where I wanted her. She's young and moldable. Then they talk about the time that he told Cassie in front of Capricorn and I think Lauren London, sit down, stand up, walk there, hand me that, and go in the other room. And she did it. The prosecution says this is considered total compliance. Now, I told you this was going to get a little bit messy. As the prosecutor is reading that, I'm looking at Sarah. Sarah does this after the whole total compliance thing. She goes, I don't know if some of these things are hitting Sarah and Misa because they're sitting right next to each other, and you'll hear more moments where they actually share and look at each other, and it feels like they are reliving something. So this total compliance thing hit Sarah in a weird way. Because technically, people aren't really showing you how they feel. There's times where you want to shake your head, but it's really ill-advised. Yeah. So then they show a picture of some of Cassie's injuries. Lala, the woman who's taking care of the twins, and Sarah both turned their head and they both looked down. They did not want to see the image. This particular image was like a really bad gash on Cassie's head. They didn't want to look at that. Let's see. But I noted all 5 of Diddy's kids are looking directly at the picture. They're not looking away. Sarah and Lala did. Jury check. Only Detroit is sleeping right now at this point. They go into the fact that he would not allow her to make money from music. There's an exhibit where Common wanted Cassie in a video and Puffy refused that. I wouldn't. I mean, Common them been around. Diddy took cars, jewelry, her home, phones, and laptops from her when angry. Then they go on to the $20,000 extortion attempt from the family, where Diddy had said, "I will release your sex tapes if your parents don't pay me back $20,000 I gave you prior to finding out you were cheating on me with Kid Cudi." I was looking at the jury to see if any of them kind of like moved when they started talking about the mom and the testimony from Cassie's mom again. Nobody did that. I put Detroit is now making weird faces again. She's doing this. I don't know what that. I don't know. I don't know what that is. If she's trying to stay awake or if she's very invested in what the prosecution is saying, or she's not invested at all. I can just tell you she's making funny faces. At a certain point, Cassie asked D-Rock to take her keys from Diddy. He said, "You know, I can't do that." She says, Cassie's in a constant state of fear because she didn't know what she would get from moment to moment. 07-08, he hit Cassie in a car. 2010, attacked her at the Prince party. Also in 2010, attacked her again in front of the makeup artist. 2011, he attacked her about Kid Cudi. So now they're showing more photos on the screen of Cassie's bruises, and everybody's looking at them. Then they go to another photo where he had busted her in the head and it was bleeding. They looked away from that. Most people turned away when they showed more significant facial damage to Cassie. I put the jury is all looking directly at the monitors in front of them. So they're seeing that, but you're not seeing too much reaction on their face. There's a Cassie quote. "Make the wrong face, and the next thing I know, I was getting hit in the face." Then they move on to how he assaulted the friends, Mia, Deontay, Bana, and Carrie. Now, this was interesting. She said Bana might have gotten the day wrong, but the event happened. We don't need to get into Bana's testimony. You guys can all go back and look at it yourself. But they needed to note that because the prosecution is acknowledging that Bana did not have the right day. See, I'm fair. The prosecution acknowledged that. Why didn't Cassie leave? She goes on to say the doctor, the specialist, who some of them slept through, explained, once you have fear, you will walk on eggshells and devote all of your time to not getting hit. So then we move on to Roger Bonds, Ruben, D-Rock, and KK. They all prevented Cassie from leaving. You see a text exchange between D-Rock and Cassie. The prosecution says he was playing both sides when Diddy was reaching out to D-Rock. having D-Rock ice Cassie's face because he had just beat her up. But he was reaching out to Cassie and then sending all of those messages to Diddy. So that's what they're saying. They were playing both sides. This was the point where Diddy was angry because Justin had seen Cassie's wounds. 2018, it was the end of the relationship. They had dinner in Malibu. It was a nice dinner, and then he R-worded her. This was Diddy's text response after the alleged R-word. I know I look bad to you. I could tell you weren't into it, but I'm going to do better. She goes, the prosecution goes, this was his way of acknowledging the R-word. Now, I was listening to that like, okay. Cassie says he walked her in the house after they had already broken up, and he physically assaulted her on the floor. He responds to her the next day, I know I look bad to you. I could tell you weren't into it. So you guys can put in the chat, do you think that I could tell you weren't into it was him acknowledging that she was not a willing participant in the sex that they had that night? Or if you feel like that was a reach, you can say it. I had to think about that one because I kind of just took what he said at face value. I know I look bad to you. I could tell you weren't into it, but I'm going to do better. I'm gonna give that one a good 50-50 because after they broke it down, I was like, okay, she's alleging that she said no and he went anyway. Is this what an abuser would do? Like try to make you feel like it was just something where maybe you didn't like the way he looked or his body, but you still wanted it. So I started thinking, okay, maybe I could see that. So then she said she was so connected to Diddy that she went back to him briefly after the R word. Freak offs. There's a picture similar to the picture that you guys saw when you clicked on this video of Diddy laying on a bed, big and bloated, with a red light. I'm just like, does Diddy think that? Diddy probably thinks everybody is attracted to him. Maybe that's what it is because they keep showing the same red light photo and it's scary as hell. She says a lot of this was sex when they had UTIs. There was period sex. And the escorts and Diddy were urinating on Cassie. These were drug-induced and eventually led to Cassie's addiction. These were not pleasurable, enjoyable experiences. She kept highlighting that. UTI sex, sex on your period, escorts and Diddy urinating in your mouth when that's not what you're into, all drug-induced and eventual sexual addiction. So she kept really wanting to drive that home that Cassie, this was not enjoyable. This was a job. And then she pointed out that Cassie even said in one of her text messages, this is my job. Now, remember I told you guys there was somebody who we call him unhoused in New York, but he's like a homeless guy who was trying to give me a hard time. This man who fought so hard and was mad that I was in the courtroom, this ninja is literally looking at me. He then turned around. Is looking at me, looking at the clock, humming. You're not supposed to be doing any of this. You're supposed to be just sitting, listening. You want to be in the goddamn courtroom so bad, but you're not taking notes. You're not doing anything. It's crazy. Like, I don't even want to say that because I don't want people to think I have a problem with homeless people. I just have a problem with him. And the homeless man that farts a lot. That's kind of annoying. So, okay. Now we're getting back to what I told you we were going to touch on Misa and Sarah. So as they're talking about the painful UTI sex, the urination, drug-induced, and drug addiction, Misa and Sarah both look at each other and shake their head. Misa's doing this and Sarah's like this. Again, I don't know. When they would do things like that, it was in the it felt like it was in the context of what was being said. Both of these women had some type of sexual relationship with Diddy for any amount of years. I don't know when it really stopped or if it ever stopped with Sarah specifically. But if they're talking about horrible stuff like UTI sex and the urine and all this kind of stuff, and they're both shaking their heads, unabashedly, mind you, because they're in a courtroom full of reporters, anybody can see any of this, like I can see. Maybe they just don't really give a damn. Maybe these two women have experienced something where they don't give a damn and they're only there for their children. But if they hear something, they are talking about it. I thought that was interesting. Back to sex trafficking. 3 examples of forced or coerced sex. March 26th, Intercontinental Hotel. Before the freak off, Cassie had a movie premiere. Diddy texted Cassie about the freak off. Cassie played ball. She tried to go on the defense. She said, I want to freak off so bad. I don't want you to think that I don't want to. Just don't want to mess myself up. So basically what the prosecutor is saying here is it's that victim mindset. I'm just trying not to get hit. I'm just trying not to get hit. So then they show the hotel video and the prosecutor narrates. So the jury is watching. No one is wincing at the hotel video this time. Prosecutor alleges that all of this happened because he was ready to see more big black dick and hadn't had his full share of baby batter yet. Diddy is not looking at the jury while the video is playing. Like you'll see Diddy looking at them. He's not doing that. His head is down. He's looking now at his screen. He then got his Malcolm X glasses on. She narrates this extremely well from the different aspects. She says the bipolar defense and the bad drug defense is out the door. I said how she's narrating this puts a whole new spin on the Intercontinental Hotel video. At a certain point, you see him stalling Flores because he doesn't want him to see Jules, the big black dick, in his room, because the big black dick is for his eyes only. I put realistically, this is very effective. She goes to a part where he is joking with Flores, crack jokes, and she says, if it were a case of hard drugs, he would be out of control with everyone, not just Cassie. And that made so much sense to me. When you break it down, he's throwing bases, he's doing all of these things to Cassie, but then he sees somebody who can get him trouble, and then all of a sudden he falls in line. He goes back to being charismatic, even though he's sitting there, titties out in a towel. He's joking, he's playing, he's offering money, the bribe. Then when this dude, Officer Flores, wants to go back to the hotel room to check things out, Diddy is stalling him because he knows he has big black dick in the room. So he gets Cassie in the room and tries to close the door, and the officer puts his foot in the door. So I'm like, that is actually very effective. You're right. He could be on just hard drugs where he's out of control, because he's only out of control with Cassie. He's only ever really, truthfully, out of control with women. That was very valid. I'm telling you guys, I was impressed a lot of the time by this particular prosecutor, because Comey is the one that I really like. But I think they were going for somebody who has more of like a softer demeanor. She said, no, it doesn't matter if the sex takes place. The law states you use coercion or force to get her in that room to have sex. Again, I'm like, is the jury hearing this? Read that again. Doesn't matter if sex takes place. And guys, for anybody who is siding with Diddy and you're in the chat, I'm cool with that. We're just going to go over the actual merits and the laws. The law states it does not matter if the sex takes place. The law states you use coercion or force to get her into the room. So when she's saying that, she's showing the video where Cassie clearly does not want to go back to the room. He beats her and then drags her. So okay. I put, now the unhoused man is loudly humming. The black bailiff is coming looking for him. I put, he's going to get kicked out. It says, the prosecutor says, do not listen to the defense when they say Diddy was just paying for time. She goes, I'm not even going to spend more than 10 seconds on this. You all know he was paying escorts for sex. And I'm like, okay, good, forceful. All of the jury is listening to her say this because now she's talking very forcefully, directly to them. Let me read that. I'm not going to spend more than 10 seconds on this because you all know he was paying escorts for sex and likes big black dick. She didn't say the BBD. So then she reads something from Diddy. Bitch, when I tell you to come here, you come here. She goes, this was 4 years before the Intercontinental Hotel. So they were, at that point, they were with an escort named Daniel. Daniel said she seemed scared after Diddy beat her in another room, but he also testified she seems willing for sex. And I said, that's interesting. Was Daniel, the escort, saying that she seemed scared, but she seemed willing so that he wouldn't look bad? Okay, so Lala, the woman who takes care of Diddy's children, I guess she's like an aunt or a play aunt or whatever, she is now doing this as she's listening. Then she starts rubbing Lil Kim Janice's back and she asks her, are you okay? She mouths that out and Mama Combs says, I'm good. These are real moments. Like, these are real moments. I always liked Lala because I feel like we can't persecute these kids who lost a mom for the crimes of their father. So having somebody like Lala, who's been around them their whole life, still there helping them, especially the girls, I like that. But seeing Lala rub Lil Kim's back and ask her if she's okay as she's hearing this, I don't think I've seen anybody say that to the mom as of yet. That was like a real moment. At the Cannes Film Festival, they recall that Diddy was squeezing her arm, squeezing his nails into her arms and legs. On the way from Cannes, he made her watch multiple sex tapes and threatened to release them. I don't want to go on that. She said, harm isn't just violence. It could be reputational harm. Good point. Harm isn't just violence. It's also considered reputational harm. So if you are telling somebody, I'm going to release your sex tapes, that counts. No, not Lala Anthony. Her name is Lala. She was like Kim Porter's like best friend. She's taking care of the kids. Then they show an exhibit where Cassidy's saying, "I really don't know what no would be. When upset, he can be violent. He has a temper. If he wants something, he's going to make it happen." She said, the prosecutor said, the defense said it was a voluntary choice to stay with him. So she said, imagine if the closest person to you hits you and beats you, kicks you, punches you for not answering the phone, making a face, saying the wrong thing. So I guess that was to indicate that it wasn't just necessarily a voluntary choice. I did see that there was more. Tamika, I did see there was more lawsuits. It's just, this is a lot. The trial, the coverage, working with other people, it's a lot. Then there was text messages where he threatened to expose the sex that she had with somebody named Milan to Cassie's mom. 2009 text message. So I've told you guys this, but it's important to the case. So you've seen the defense say Jane and Cassie, they just, they were all into it. They were all into it. They wanted it. These are the text messages. But in 2009 is when Diddy told Cassie specifically, your job is to seduce me all day. So then she began to comply with more of like the fantasy talk and stuff like that, because that's what Diddy wanted. So we've talked about this. I'm not going to go in too deep, but if I know I'm doing something wrong and I get you to pay for the escorts with your money, now you're wrapped in. If I know that I'm doing drugs and I get you to purchase me drugs, now you're wrapped into that. It's really no different with this. These people weren't necessarily into the freak offs, but now I have you setting them up and you paying the escort. So when I go down, we go down. And now the slow one arrives. For Cassie's 29th birthday. So they're showing all these pictures of Cassie and her friends, and they all look great. But they keep using the same picture of Diddy where he looks like a beady-eyed bastard. Sex trafficking. KK got access to hotel rooms for escorts. KK saw Wild King Night tapes. She did damage control for them. Fahim also knows about the freak offs and brought drugs to the hotels. KK knew Jane didn't want to do hotel nights. KK continued to set up hotel nights. D-Rock helped the defendant control Cassie. Bond, he saw a naked man. I'm sorry, David, the assistant. He saw a naked man who was 5'8" and well endowed. Deontay saw a man entering Cassie in Diddy's hotel room, and Jonathan straight up saw sex tapes. So they're just saying that when people were being cross-examined, I told you some of them, it felt like maybe they were in cahoots with Diddy. They're saying they did not know what was going on. This was just proof that some of the assistants and the people knew that it wasn't just personal time for Diddy. They knew that there was intimate moments happening with escorts, and they knew that there were drugs involved. Interstate transportation for prostitution. She said this is totally separate from sex trafficking charge. Does not require force, fraud, or coercion. It's knowingly transporting individuals in interstate or foreign commerce. Defendant intended that the individual would engage in an act of prostitution. Those are the only things. So we're doing a quick jury check. Everyone is awake. Detroit and La Crosse are hanging in there. I'm telling you, I was noticing everything, but this is so much more difficult than being in the overflow room where you're just kind of focused on what the people are saying. Looking and noticing all this stuff is way harder. Clayton Howard, they moved him from Miami They moved him from Miami and LA for sex. He also one escort. He also traveled to Ibiza. Is it Ibiza or Ibiza? I heard it was Ibiza. Jules Theodore. They took him to New York. They show exhibits of his flight details and the Amex bill to pay for it. They know there was a text message, FYI, because it's so last minute. If you can make it happen, the tip will reflect. Another example, this ninja said the party starts at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning. What party starts at 7 a.m.? 7 a.m. in the morning is when the party started. So he's reaching out. This is Diddy reaching out to this particular escort, the one who was there at the Intercontinental. So Jules must have been a favorite. So Jules said he would, leave on Friday. And then they show more receipts for the purposes of freak-offs. Then they show a full chart of Clayton Howard's freak-off dates and payments and everything. Jury check. There's still a few jurors taking notes. And then we move on to Cabral. Cabral was sent to Miami, LA, and New York. Paul Arthur was sent to LA, Miami, and Turks. Okay, so Lil Kim Janice is now talking to Sarah. And one of the twins passes Sarah their lemonade. There's a few problems with this. We're only supposed to be drinking water. And they treat us like prisoners. Like the bailiffs treat us, some of them treat us pretty crazy. You are letting the Combs twins drink lemonade out of a glass container, passing snacks. Mama Combs is talking. They do not have to follow the same rules as everybody else, apparently. No offense, but you're a grown woman who has been with Diddy. I don't like the fact that you're drinking from the same bottle with those kids. Go get your own lemonade. No offense, but you are you haven't been around the block. I don't know how else to say it. Don't be drinking after. That's not even your daughter. That's somebody else's daughter. Gross. So then there's a message. I don't like that. I don't know why I'm protective of those kids. Like some of these people be like, trying to talk to them or say something inappropriate. Like it's hard enough. Like I don't even talk to the kids. Even if we're in the same elevator or they're in front of me in line, I don't do any of that just because like you're going through a tough enough time. Don't let that woman drink after you. That ain't your mom. So there's a message from Diddy saying to KK, I want the sexiest, most unapologetic Wild King night set up for me in Vegas. KK then responds, do you want Paul's BBD? She didn't say BBD. So the prosecutor is basically saying KK knows what goes down at these King nights because KK is asking her boss if she should send Paul the escort. Like, good point. So then I said, side note, when Misa did that post about not my son, how much more of this stuff did she know about? Like, did Misa know that Justin had seen Cassie get beat up or seen the after effects of her getting beat up? Had Justin told his mom that, you've seen your dad do drugs or some sexual things? Like, it really got me to thinking when Misa finally put her foot down, when Justin had that DUI, was it a culmination of everything and she had just had enough? You're putting your hands on women, you then put your hands on me. Everybody allegedly knew that the drugs was flowing. There's multiple women. He's already short and got, we haven't heard anything from him since college football. Was that why she really went hard on Diddy for the first time? It just got me to thinking about that. Also, Vado was there. Remember, Misa is suing Mary J. Blige over an artist. Well, that artist Vado was there in the courtroom today as well. They'd had a break. Pearl comes back from the break laughing. I don't know if somebody gave Pearl a brownie or what, but this is the first time I have ever seen Pearl smile. On to forced labor. Conspirator must obtain or provide the labor services of another. That you acted knowingly. And used force or physical restraint. In the forced labor, they included Cassie and Jane, and the players are Diddy, D-Rock, KK, and Fahim. Cassie said freak-offs were grueling, 24 to 96 hours. Jane said they were 24 to 36 hours. I put Diddy had already gotten old by the time he was messing with Jane. He couldn't do 96 hours no more, plus the drugs. So didn't let Cassie or Jane sleep during freak-offs, made them take drugs to achieve this. They were sore. They developed sores, UTIs, and they were sick all the time. They were painful to the point where antibiotics stopped working for urinary tract infections. Cassie, quote, horrible, the most uncomfortable burning. I wouldn't advise it for anybody. Jane said, I'm the one doing all the work. And they said both took days to recover from freak-offs. 2, elements of forced labor. Defendant knew that he was forcing Cassie and Jane to engage in labor services. He would say, just push through, finish strong. Mia. For this, the players are D-Rock, KK, Tony Fletcher, Diddy, and Vashta. Forced Mia to work grueling hours. Sexually assaulted Mia when Cassie and other girlfriends were not around. Woke her up in her bedroom and R-worded her. Forced oral from her. Cornered her on a private plane. And she intended to die with these secrets. Okay. Misa and Sarah are agreeing again, while prosecution is describing latent memories. So you remember, Mia didn't right off the bat come out and talk about the R word. We found out that it was considered latent memories, things that she had tried to make herself forget, thought she would never have to talk about again. While they are discussing this, Misa and Sarah are again touching each other and agreeing. I put, who knows what these ladies have seen involving themselves with Diddy over the years. Prosecution says force was used against Mia. I put, poor Pearl. She just wants to go home, take her shoes off, pour some moderately priced wine, and forget all of these freak nasty stories. Moving on to Capricorn. Forced labor. Vashta ripped up a paper showing $80,000 of overtime that Capricorn was owed. Capricorn was kidnapped twice during her employment. Capricorn was threatened that she would lose her job. We're moving on to witness tampering and obstruction. Jury check. The guy who I say looks like a retired cop, he has officially dozed off. He was taking notes. He was hanging in there. He was trying. He is now dozed off. I said I want to commend him for fighting it for so long and taking notes, because that's more than some of these people did. Jane and Mia, the witness tampering. They knowingly used intimidation or attempted to do so. tried to delay or prevent the communications to law enforcement agencies. So this is what they're considering the elements of witness tampering. Sex traffic obstruction. I'm not gonna lie, I can't read my writing there. So they move on to Jane with the sex trafficking obstruction. It says conspirators knowingly take a substantial, and then I don't know. I'm having to write all this, so my bad. That's one that I just missed. Sex trafficking obstruction. I can ask somebody tomorrow what they got on that. For Jane, told the defendant the impact of Cassie's lawsuit. Sorry. Oh, Jane had told the defendant the impact Cassie's lawsuit had on her. Defendant calls Jane on a recorded line on KK's phone. Over 6 times tells her, you know I can't talk on the phone. You know I can't talk on the phone. You know I can't talk on the phone. Meanwhile, he's called her. He records the calls in an attempt to get her to agree that it was a consensual relationship. Anytime Jane tries to tell her truth, he shuts her down. So we're listening to this call. And as the prosecutor is narrating it, I'm like, that's effective. Oh, hold on. Can you guys hear me? Sorry, hold on 1 second. Okay, here we go. Sorry. My microphone had fallen out. I said that is really effective. The way that she narrated this call, it made a lot more sense in context. So she doesn't know she's being recorded. She's just talking to what she thinks is her abusive boyfriend. He's asking her questions so that she will acknowledge that it was a consensual relationship, even though we have seen messages where she says, I feel like a hooker. I feel like I'm only here for sex. So anytime Jane says something like that, Diddy shuts her down and says, baby, hold up. I can't talk. If she is saying stuff on this recorded call that makes him sound better, he keeps it in. Anytime she says something where she is swaying from what he wants her to say, he stops her. And they point out there is somebody in the background like taking notes. I didn't even hear it until they pointed it out. KK was in the background of this conversation taking notes. So he tells her, you even brought up a sex tape. You even brought me a device so we could record our tapes and watch them. And then when she tries to come back and say, I really don't want to do it, he cuts her off again. I thought this was effective. There's a second call where he says, I need your friendship. Don't send text. People might misread it. So then the prosecutor says, this is where he's dangling a carrot. I need you. Jane, I'm so effed up. I'm twisted. Diddy, you know you ain't got to worry about nothing else. You hear me? So this is where they're saying that he is saying to her, I'm going to pay your way. If you follow my instructions, my guidelines, I'm going to keep paying for you. That's as soon as that call is over, he reaches out to KK and says, make sure to pay her rent on time. Back to Mia. D-Rock visits Diddy. Then D-Rock texts Mia after not having talked to her for 2 years. Then he calls Mia for Diddy. Then D-Rock says, you know that what Puff and Cass were doing was just normal couple fighting. That sets off an alarm for Mia. Then D-Rock suggests that Mia call Puffy. Then Puffy calls Mia. Then the defendant sends the same messages to D-Rock. So let me see. What was that? What was that considered? What was she arguing this was? Sex trafficking obstruction. Now that one, I'm going to talk to an attorney about. I was trying to get Dimitri. He is a high-profile New York defense attorney that we've had on the channel before. I was trying to get him to come on. We couldn't schedule for today, but I am definitely going to try to get him on. Y'all, this was hard. This was a lot of information. This was like 6 hours of note taking, crazy people, angry, unhoused people. Deshelle, glad you're doing well, Mims. Thank you. D Prince, the government ate the defense up, tens across the board. They did good. I wouldn't blow smoke up your ass. They did good today. Cassandra, for someone who's not a journalist, Mims, you're sure coming through with good info. Thank you. Mama Flip. Oh, what's up? Mama Flip is also in the courtroom. She says, glad you got into court today. Hope the drama stops, but it'll probably get worse before the end. Look, I'm just going to keep hiring my line sitter and getting there right before time. Outside of that, there's really nothing I can do. I don't think I'm going to do I'm not going to pay this amount every day, but I will do this for what I think are like important days for you guys. Jessica, hi, Mims. It's Jessica from Australia. What's up? What's up, Jess? D Princess, it's a choice to be willfully ignorant as a grown adult as it pertains to this trial. To see some people saying he's innocent is laughable. I don't think so, but hey, at this point, I don't even know what day it is sometimes. Ask, thank you so much for the super sticker. What's up, Nadi? Thank you for the super sticker. Donna, I know you missed the overflow room more than you know. Because I think there's 3. There's so many people here now. I think they said there was 3 overflow rooms and then the people in the courtroom. Justin, mini applesauce cup. I'm gonna let you call him that. Spiritual gangster, narcissistic behavior, and reverse control. Absolutely. And thanks for being a member for 13 months. Shy, I'm just happy to see you, Mims. Hey, and shout out to the straight shooter. Y'all know I don't really do the outside stuff because I like to eat. But today I went and I bought all the stuff so that I can be outside the courtroom for at least these last few days doing that. And a straight shooter just walked up. Not somebody in the courtroom. She was literally jogging. I guess she lives over there. I thought that was cool. Annette, Mims, you're doing a wonderful job. Thank you. Tamika, Mims, a new lawsuit dropped. Puff and Justin gang. I did see that. I think that dropped yesterday. I've not had time. Like, time is the issue while I'm out here. But I can't wait to get back to like my normal content. Morbid Hype, thank you, Mims, for all you do. Thank you. I appreciate you for being here. Crystal Cove, thank you as always for the very generous super chats. Crystal says, hey, Mims and straight shooter. Excellent reporting as always. Late, so I'll rewind later, but any indication of future separate charges for the co-conspirators? Any truth to the rumors that Christian is cooperating with the prosecution? I've not heard anything about Christian cooperating with the prosecution. Yeah, I think they're setting it up for D-Rock and KK and Fahim. I think that they are setting it up for those 3 co-conspirators. Tisha, thank you for the super sticker. Spiritual gangster. They all knew he was a sloppy, addicted demon. Money is the root of all evil. The power and control, fear is a lot. When you have people on your payroll that would hurt others, Kim knew, and so did she. The Pitbull Mom, thank you for the very generous super chat or the super sticker. Thank you. I appreciate that. Joy Angel, we appreciate you bringing us the facts from court. I've been dealing with a faulty smoke alarm going off for several hours a day, and you have helped me keep my sanity while I cut the wires. Love you. Can you do that? I guess if you own it, you can do it. I didn't know you could. Is that tampering with the smoke alarm? I don't know. Anyway, so I'll try to do midday coverage, but that meant that all I ate today was some fruit snacks and one of those cookies and cream Hershey's bars. So I have not eaten anything other than breakfast. This has been a long day. I had to wake up at 4:30. It's been a long day, but we're here. Definitely check out that podcast I did with Jerica from CBS. That's really dope. I should be having something coming up with James. James he's not just a great journalist from Essence. He's a journalist for a lot of other people and a stylist. So we haven't determined when I'm going to be doing his podcast, but there's more to come. I need to follow up with a few other people. I don't usually say stuff like this online. So I need to follow up with CNN and Pix 11. So we'll see. This is a lot of content. So we'll see if I can, I don't know. I need to take a nap. I'm tired. We got one more super chat. Drea, I look forward to listening to these. Okay, thank you so much. And I appreciate you guys for checking out the Essence article, the NBC article, and now the podcast with the CBS reporter, Jerika. Thank you guys for all the support. I'm tired and I'm hungry. So see you. I think, who was I talking to? I think it might have been Tisa. We're not getting lunches, y'all. We're not getting lunches. We're tired and hungry. So bye, y'all.